Welcome to the Chosson and Kallah Shmooze you wish you had but never got, Part 8. So, I remind everybody again, please listen to these discussions from the beginning and the end, starting with the introduction, because there is going to be increasingly sensitive material. Be'ezras Hashem, we will cover every aspect of marriage, communication, sexuality, sexual dysfunction, sex therapy. We're going to discuss all of it, but again, as I like to say, you need to do your homework. And we start with relationship skills. I also invite anybody who is interested in a PDF that contains many of the material from this discussion to contact me by email, simchafeuerman@gmail.com, and you can find out how to get it. Okay, so we're in the middle of the 13 distorted beliefs that undermine marital and relationship success. And we are up to the 10th distorted belief. This one is about intelligence. Sometimes people feel that if they are more intelligent than their spouse, they feel this is a major impediment to a connection and to a relationship. Now, of course, on some level, you have to speak the same language. However, intelligence is not all it's cracked up to be. In fact, many times the emotional intuition, the sense of connection that comes between two people, is really not dependent on IQ. And a lot of times there are people that are really smart, but in a lot of ways really stupid when it comes to emotional intelligence. It's important to create a connection that transcends raw computational power. People have instinct. They have a sense of love, of dedication, a wish to share. Most concepts, even concepts that are very sophisticated and scholarly, have also a very basic resonance and harmony with a person's own sense of what's true or not. What can be helpful in situations like this is to ask, what does it mean to you? To ask yourself that, and to ask your spouse that. So, for example, let's say I'm a physicist and I'm involved in quantum mechanics and I'm making all these amazing equations. And my lovely spouse is somebody who is not really a mathematical genius, maybe not a genius at all, just a really fine, good person, to be sure. Not a dope, but not a rocket scientist by far. So, how do I come home and talk about my work? How do I come home and feel connected? Well, there's a couple of points that are important to know. First of all, according to the landmark studies of Gottman, of John Gottman, the success in a relationship is not so much about people sharing the same interest. This is very important. Successful relationships do not necessarily require that the spouses have the same interest. However, there's a twist. What it does require is a sense that your spouse cares about what you're interested in and is rooting for you and happy for you. So if one person is a great scholar, maybe a seminary teacher or a Talmud Chacham, and the other spouse is maybe a businessman or maybe not a particularly intellectual person, the issue is not so much do they share the same interests. The issue is when you discuss your interests, your successes, your failures, does the other person care? And can they convey a sense of care? And that's why the question of what it means to me, what it means to the other person, is the most valuable question. So, for example, let's say I really am a rocket scientist, and I'm studying all these mathematical mysteries that most people wouldn't even be able to get. The real issue is not the formulas. The real issue is, what does it mean? What does it mean to me personally? For example, I love the challenge. I love trying to solve the puzzle, which, by the way, if you're talking to your spouse, if your spouse is more of a simple person, whether they're baking or involved in business, whether they're a male or a female, the meaning of trying to work on something and solve it is something that everybody could relate to. It's a basic pattern of human behavior. It does not require genius if you're willing to actually talk about what it means, or you want to unlock the mysteries of the universe because you want to discover God, you whatever the reason is, or you just like your job and you want to get a promotion. On an emotional level, it transcends intellect. If you're able to translate the meaning of something and share the meaning with another person, the other person does not have to understand the nuts and bolts of what it is that you know. All the person needs to know is to know how much you care about it and to get involved in the system and the symbolic sense and meaning of what it is that you're engaged in. So the rabbis also teach us. It's taught in Avos in Perek Daled Mishnah Aleph. Ezeu Chacham Halomi B'Kol Adam. Know who is a wise person, somebody who can learn from everybody. Do you really think that they're, kidding around? You think it's just like a saying? Or maybe it's like, I don't know, it's like a mitzvah, like you're supposed to shake a lulav, you're supposed to kiss a mezuzah, even I don't know if you're supposed to kiss a mezuzah, but that's a whole different conversation. Maybe we'll get to that one day. But the issue is that what they're talking about? They're talking about, and they talk in Perek Vav Mishnah Gimel, it says even if you learn a pasuk, even if you learn one letter from somebody, they're supposed to be your Rebbe. What in the world are they talking about? Is this an exaggeration? They're talking about a state of mind, a sensitivity that we all must have, that truly there's something to learn from everybody and everything. And if you approach that in that kind of way, you will be rewarded. I'm not talking about an olam haba. In the world to come, you'll be rewarded in a real richness of experiencing another person, another beautiful, wonderful soul made in the image of God. Okay, let's talk about the 11th distorted belief. The 11th distorted belief is oftentimes people feel if they're not loved, they feel unlovable. That's not, unfortunately, uncommon. Both that we get a sense sometimes that somebody doesn't love us, maybe just temporarily, or maybe if it's a conflictual, difficult relationship like with a parent, it may continue for, unfortunately, a long time. But we make a mistake in allowing what other people think of us to dictate our reality. Now, to be sure, we can't help it. We are hardwired deeply to value the esteem of people in our social circle. And again, as I've referenced in other discussions, whether you are a believer in evolutionary psychology or you think of it as chachmas abore, as the wisdom of the Creator, our instincts are extremely powerful. Now imagine I'm part of a hunter-gatherer group, and we're all hunting together, and I trip and fall, and I sprain my ankle. If my friends, my colleagues, my fellow tribesmen do not hold me in enough esteem, if they do not care about me enough, I'll be left there and literally be thrown to the dogs, thrown to the wolves. It's only if they care about me enough that they would lend a helping hand and help me, maybe carry my burden if I'm not able to walk easily. Therefore, deeply wired within us is a sense that other people's esteem for us is a matter of life and death. It is pikuach nefesh. It is felt that way existentially. One can't totally go against our wiring. However, the interesting thing about human beings are, just like Chazal say, that we have a nefesh, we have a soul, and we have a guf. Psychologically speaking, too, we have more our instincts, which represent sometimes extremely important parts of our existence, but they're still instincts, and they operate more or less on autopilot. And then we have our intellect, and there are times where, through the force of rationality, we can overcome that. And the idea that we're not lovable because others don't love us is patently false. Everybody in this world intrinsically is lovable and loved. The very fact that you exist and that God allows you to exist means that there is something important and valuable to your existence, because God does not waste his time, as I'm sure you all are aware. And that means that regardless of what you have done, right now at this moment, because you are still granted the gift of life, that makes you the most valuable that anything could ever be. At this moment in time, regardless of what you have done, if you are being granted life right now at this moment, you are loved and special and unique. This is reflected too in the Gemara in Tainus on Dav Chaf. Unfortunately, Rabbi Elazar erroneously, somehow or another, maybe he was thinking in his head, and without thinking, what he was thinking came out. But he saw this unusually grotesque and ugly person, and he commented, "Oh my gosh, look how ugly this person is." And as I say, I'm sure that Rabbi Elazar didn't actually mean it to leave his lips. He probably just was thinking it, and somehow it came out. But that was a terrible thing. Rabbi Elazar tries to beg forgiveness from this person, and the person says to him, "I'm not going to forgive you until you ask Mechila and until you complain to the one who created me." In other words, this person had a tremendous amount of self-confidence, even though he was quite ugly, and he realized that that's not on me. I was created by Hashem. I was created by God. I was created in his image. He has granted me life. That means that I have something very special. And if Rabbi Elazar, you were too foolish to see that, don't complain to me. Take it back to the manufacturer.